afternoon and welcome to our last meeting of September, and I can almost feel fall in the air if you get up at 4 o'clock this morning. It's got hot today again, didn't it? Invocation tonight will be given by Councilman Matt Harvin and respects to the flag be led by Councilman Greg Steele. Please rise.
Let us pray. Our Father, we come tonight filled with gratitude for our city, the employees, and our citizens. We thank you for letting us call our city home. We thank you for the opportunity to serve our community. We pray for wisdom for our council to guide our minds to make decisions that are just and for the better welfare of all of our citizens. Grant us peace and the ability to work together, to listen, to make decisions for the good of our city. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start our meeting today, we have a couple of special recognitions. And on our agenda, we have Jeff Traham, Jeff was the CEO of the Anderson Housing Authority. He won't be with us tonight, but I just want to thank him publicly for serving over the last decade or so in what I think is a very important part of our city, our housing, and making sure that things are done over there in a very good way. And Jeff is retiring, and I think we all have a lot of respect for Jeff and what his organization did for our city. Tonight we have, at our organization, we have a lot of numerous boards and commissions where citizens volunteer in specific areas to help us govern our city and make good decisions and planning and so forth. And tonight I have one of our, it's always like family, and this one's more, Herbert Irvin. Come on up, Herbert. Herbert's been with the city of Anderson in a lot of different capacities, but in this capacity he's served on our planning commission for a number of years. And we always kind of joke we're going to double their pay, right? And they don't really get paid anything, but it's the servant leadership that they have, that they give of their time and their service and their talents to that. And a small token of our appreciation is, and I'd like to read it, is presented to Herbert Irvin in grateful appreciation for 8 years of loyal and dedicated commitment to the city of Anderson by serving on the Planning Commission on September the 22nd of 2025. And Herbert, we appreciate it. Thank you. And please say something.
I don't know what to say. It's caught me by surprise, but I had to get off the board because my wife had major surgery. I mean, anybody that's a caregiver, I feel you. Because it is a thing. So as soon as I leave here, I got to go home, cook, clean, do everything. But appreciate it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Before we start the body of our meeting, our business meeting, I'm going to turn the floor over to Dr. Thompson. Dr. Thompson.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
On last Saturday, September 13th, I was honored in my legacy at the Civic Center by the community. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the community for what you've done and your support. But especially want to thank my fellow council members. You were wonderful. You were great. And your support I will always remember. Mayor, your inspiring words, the beautiful flowers. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
And all you guys here. Kyle, I saw a note in the newspaper. I saw you on the video. All of you. Tony, beautiful, beautiful words in the booklet. Thank you so much. Even though you weren't there, your heart was there. And Greg, along with that young son of yours who came and he was there, and all the support that you've given. And I had to bring that card that you sent me with to just show you how much it meant to me with that card. And Matt, I read your report in the newspaper. And all of you guys. You know, I've worked with you for a long time, and I love all of you. I enjoy working with you. And you know, you're all my children. So I have to keep you in line. But anyway, I want to say thank you. Thank all of you. And I also want to mention that Beth Batson and Brandon Greer were so hardworking and supportive of everything. And I just say thank you. I appreciate you. And I will always remember this as I get older, and carry this in all my memories. Thanks again. I love all of you.
Love you.
The minutes of our September 8th meeting were distributed. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes?
Make a motion, we approve those minutes.
First by Mr. Steele,
Second.
second by Mr. Martinez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. We don't have any old business tonight. We have 5 items of new business. And the first item of new business is request consideration of an ordinance to amend Division 3 of Article 2 of Chapter 42 of the City Code, providing for the prohibition of unreasonable noises. Ms. McEwen?
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is a revision to our current ordinances that's on the books regarding noise. On September the 8th, the City Council held a work session to review and discuss a revision to the city's noise ordinance. The proposed revision modernizes our ordinance to expand on specific prohibited noises of such character, intensity, or duration which interferes with the comfortable enjoyment of persons occupying, owning, or controlling nearby properties, or persons making use of public properties, or which injures or endangers the health, peace, or safety of others within the city. As you can look in your packet and look at the actual ordinance itself, walk you through it just a bit. You can see the intro 4286, and then 4287, you have the specific noises prohibited, which gives you a strong outline, A through I, of specific noises, and this is a lot of the modernization took place in this category of the code. In this case, we do have motorized vehicles. Mufflers are required. You can't have an ineffective muffler. You can't have a cutout there. That also replicates state law, so that's A. B refers to the revving of an engine. So you often hear that. Somebody will come up to a stoplight. They may be by a table that somebody's dining at downtown, and they're revving their engine in a vehicle or a motorcycle. Well, that would be a disturbing and not a peaceful noise. It would be one of loud intensity. That's not necessary and enforceable under this ordinance. Also included is loudspeakers, megaphones, amplifiers, horns, sirens, or any other harassing noises. Mechanical devices, and it defines that. It does talk about construction, but I'll go into that in just a second. Musical instruments that are not permitted. We do have a permitting process. It's fine for somebody to come down and have musical instruments to perform on the street. We often employ employ them ourselves. We just have a process in which you come through the city for that, get a quick permit, and then you're able to do that sort of thing. And so the goal there is not to have a lot of people together in one spot doing that. Other cities near us have been experiencing a lot of issues in that area. This was on the books before, the concert halls, dance halls, and so that's not a revision there. We shortened it up just a bit. And then the second part that's big of the noise ordinance itself is the exceptions. So the exceptions defines the when, in this case, construction can take place. This is typical for cities to have this. Construction take place from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday, and between the hours of 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Saturdays, and then a little bit later on Sundays, starting at 9 a.m. That's an important one. I think people have experienced that before, but you may be in your neighborhood on a quiet morning, and somebody decides to start a new roof project, a contractor at 5 a.m. And that's just disturbing, and that's a unpleasant noise, and so this is standard, these hours that cities have. It was good to define it and put it on the books here. It goes into also other alarms, emergency vehicles, bells, chimes, all allowed. Of course, aircraft in flight, railroad equipment, motor vehicles in lawful operation. And then we also have the exemption of ballparks, playing fields, amphitheaters, stadiums, or other outdoor facilities intended for recreational or sports activities, or for different events or recreational activities, such as sports, the amphitheater, of course, anything you can think of like that. Those are all allowed on the exemptions. And then if there's a special situation, your administration can review it and approve it as necessary. So again, I would see that in a kind of a special permit situation with a parade that we might have, or some kind of planned event that could come forward, something of that nature that would make sense. The third section, 4288, this helps out give guidance to the officers that would be enforcing this, and also to help them in court define it. And so they define it by simply a common sense approach here. A, the volume of the noise. B, the intensity of the noise. C, whether the nature of the noise is usual or unusual. Whether the origin of the noise is natural or unnatural. And the type of intensity of the noise. The nature of the zoning in the area is important. So is this just all residential area? So consideration of the placement of where this noise is taking place. So I feel like this is common sense guidance to our officers to have this. In the case of our officers, and we do have Chief Stewart and Assistant Chief Nikki Carson here, if you have any questions on the enforcement side of that, our officers will be enforcing this going forward if it is adopted. This is first reading on second reading. But they do have very high-tech body cameras. We do have the newest and latest in technology on that. It's very clear. It GPSes the officer's location, where they are, where their tracking is. The camera itself does that now. It picks up great audio, incredible video, and so the officer would also be capturing that in that instance to document for the court case the prosecution of this. And I think that wraps it up on this. We did have a work session where we talked in detail about it. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer. And also from the law enforcement side, please feel free to ask the chief.
We did, and we did have some good questions at the work session. I think we cleared out, in my mind, some of those questions, but are there any additional comments, questions that anybody would like to ask?
I'd like to ask a couple questions.
Mr. Stewart?
Mr. City Manager, I know we spoke a little bit about it, but just want to kind of get an understanding, like, if I own my property, we're having a graduation party. It may get a little bit loud there. People may, how is that going to be because again, that's my private property, and just, I was looking under the human voice when you yell, shout, scream, so you may be having a good time out there. I just hate for, that to come up, where somebody's trying to celebrate something, but then they can get in trouble for trying to celebrate things. So.
Yeah, I can speak not only from being here at the city of Anderson, but from other cities as well, of how that's enforced. And from other places I've been, but it's a common sense approach applied to it. You go to somebody's house, you're going, if it's in a residential area, it's going to be on a complaint basis, on patrol, answering calls, that type of thing. Maybe an officer may or may not hear it, but the likelihood of that is probably not realistic. It's realistically going to come in from a complainant, which you would respond to the call. The officer would use discretion. In those cases, the officer walks up, says, hey, listen, we had a complaint. This is what it is. Maybe it's the noise is a little loud. Maybe the band's a little loud. And that's usually it on those. I mean, it usually, that wraps it up. They're courteous enough to say, oh, okay, we understand. We turn it down a little bit. Maybe it's past 10 o'clock at this point, and they understand a neighbor's complaining. And so those get resolved really that way. And usually, if the officer has to come back a second or third time, you do have a problem, and that's when it's addressed. It's not to stop somebody's backyard barbecue or guests coming over. That's not the intent of it.
And the only other question I had, under the exemptions, I know it talked about weddings, funerals, religious service events. I know a lot of times in our neighborhood, we have sunrise service, and they go, I know it talks about, can't see 5 minutes during a 1 hour period. Sometimes those things last longer than those 5 minute periods. And, we haven't had any trouble in the past, but I just wouldn't want anybody, having a service, have someone come down there because it did exceed 5 minutes in a 1 hour period, because you may have some people that may complain, but I just want to make sure that there's some flexibility with that as well.
Yeah, the flexibility of that to me falls as part of a planned event that's organized by a group of people, and you take in, again, the common sense approach to the reasonableness of what they're doing, and then that goes to H, which is the authorized by the city manager, and so I can direct properly there. And what I would be worried about, the likelihood of having it is it's not too high, but in this day and age, you can have it. You have some type of an event that's organized going on, and then now that event, permitted, organized, authorized, is now being disturbed by a protester with a megaphone, and these kind of things you run into sometimes. Now we can deal with the person with the megaphone that's interfering with the event, and so that is stuff that's starting to come up.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ms. Martinez, then Dr. Thompson.
Sure. So I just wanted to reiterate, I think Mr. City Manager did a good job of setting up the work session. We had an attorney present. We had the Chief of Police here answering quite a few questions here. The way I understood it was similar to some of the language you used. Very common sense approach. I think this develops the framework for enforcement. This isn't a footloose type of situation here, but it is to minimize anything that's disruptive, whether it's for businesses or for neighbors. I think there was a lot of thoughtful consideration in this. I'll allow Dr. Thompson to go, but I certainly believe that we need to pass this.
Dr.
My
Thompson.
question was, you talked about a grace period. Now, this is a new ordinance, and people are not going to know about the new rules and regulations. So if they're stopped, and are they going to be fined without giving a warning that, hey, if I come back again, you will have to pay? But would a person be fined for his first offense, and he didn't know you had the rule? I know we're going to get the rule out to everybody. So, and of course, we said that common sense, of course. So tell me a little bit about that, David.
Yeah, good question. We talked about a little bit in the work session, but this is a little different than, say, passing, I think I used in the work session, the new hands-free law in the vehicle, and you may not be aware of that in the state of South Carolina unless you watch the news and pay attention that law got passed. In this case, this is a revision to a noise ordinance that we already have on the books. It expands on that. And cities and counties have noise ordinances, and that's a blanket thing. You should know that. And so in this case, again, it's a common sense approach to it from the officer standpoint, and they would need to consider the intensity of it, how unpleasant it is, who it's bothering, what situation they're currently in. But in that case, I wouldn't want there to be a grace period, and then we have a very disturbing person that's violating this ordinance and not being able to enforce that. So the officer would take, again, a approach to this. Maybe it's a warning to one person, but if somebody's blatantly violating this with the adoption of it, and it's just a revision to what we already have on the books, it needs to be enforced. Again, they can have their time in court, and they can explain their side all day in court to the judge, and we can play the body cam video, and then the judge can decide. So it's a little bit different than passing a complete new law, because that's not what we're doing.
And what is the fine?
Oh, so the fine, it's $500 in municipal court. 500, and then plus assessment, so it can usually goes up to $1,032. However, that's not often the case. You go to municipal court. Sometimes they don't even put down the amount. They just write it on the ticket. Here's your court date. You're not even written the fine on there. It's determined in court, and then that will be up to the judge. And so that's how a lot of these are handled. It's not so much how you get a traffic ticket and then it has a tier system and you just write down the fine. It's just saying, we're just saying the maximum penalty could be $500 plus state assessments. But typically, when we write these tickets, you have a court date and then it's determined in court.
Mr. Newton?
Thank you, Mayor. This is actually one I've had the opportunity to go and speak with some constituents on. I've shared it with several of the downtown merchants. I mean, they're very excited. This is actually one of those that's kind of been, so far, everybody I've talked to, universally supportive of it. And I mean, at the end of the day, you've kind of hit on it a lot. It's the common sense approach. It's not just, there's a difference between being, loud and somewhat annoying, and intentionally disrupting the peace, the tranquility. People, maybe they're just trying to, they're sitting in North Main Commons trying to, have a drink. They're sitting outside, Suma Joe's or Sullivan's, trying to have dinner. And I think we've all seen it, particularly down Main Street, but there are other areas as well. I mean, I think this is well needed. It's just an update on something we already have on the books. And so with that, I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first by Mr. Newton, second by Mr. John Roberts. Further discussion? Mr. Steele?
I had a question. This may be for Chief, but is there going to be, in an enforcement factors, there's, our officers are going to be out and they're going to have to be the ones determining these noise, using these factors. Is there going to be any training as part of that, or are they just going to be kind of handed this ordinance and say, go figure it out? And the reason I ask is, we've talked a lot about common sense approach. I agree with that, but I also know in family court, lots of people spend thousands of dollars arguing over different versions of common sense. And I want to make sure that if we're going to have it, I think I echo the comments that everyone else has said about this is highly needed, but I just kind of want to make sure that when we go into enforcement, we have good, consistent enforcement, that people aren't going to be able to come back and say, well, you did this for this person, but this officer did something else down the road. So if you could speak to that, Chief.
Yes, sir, Mr. Steele. That's a good question. We have worked very closely with Rain Campbell right now, and on our past ordinances, this is what we did. We will actually be there in roll call training with all our shifts, but we're going to have him present this to our shifts. So you're getting the legal standard there, in fact, and he will come to all 4 shifts.
Excellent.
For our other officers, we will just make sure that's explained very well through their division captain.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. That takes care of my major concern, is I want to make sure that we had some training for our officers so they know kind of what they're doing as they're going out and taking care of these things that we've all heard complaints about from our people. So thank you so much, Chief.
Anything else?
I just want to echo everything, but I want to, thank you. I know we've had messages back and forth over the years, and talked about it. All of us have had the calls, but you know what? We've all experienced it. Everyone in this room has experienced it. And again, it's an ordinance that we're just strengthening, right? We're giving our law enforcement a tool to act on, right? Because we're not out here to stop someone that's, just going about their day. What we're doing is we're stopping the offensive noises that disrupt your thoughts and your dinner and your, your peace of being, even if you're at home sitting on the couch, you know, on a Sunday morning, like we said, the contractor shows up, or you know what, it's that loud car that truly shakes your house. You know, that's all we're doing. We've all experienced it, and I'm proud. I'm proud of our staff, and I'm proud to be part of passing this. So thank you guys, and we appreciate it. Chief, we support you and your officers in any way we can. So thank you.
Thank you. This is, again, growing pains of a growing city. So we appreciate everybody participating in law enforcement, doing what they do. So we had a first and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously on the first reading. A second item of new business is request consideration of an ordinance amending the business license ordinance of the City of Anderson to update the business license class schedule as required by Act 176. Mr. McEwen?
This item has now become essentially a routine matter, administrative matter to you guys. This is our third time having to do this. Every 2 years, we will have to update the business license rate codes by state law. With that, Chief Financial Officer Margaret Martin will walk you through this and what's needed upon the recommendation of approval.
Thank you, David. Yes, in September of 2020, the South Carolina General Assembly passed Act 176 to streamline and standardize the business license process across the state. This law requires all taxing jurisdictions to use the same business license rate class schedule. As part of this mandate, all cities in South Carolina must adopt, an updated business license class schedule every 2 years. The city last adopted a schedule in 2023. So Act 176 also requires cities to use the North American Industry Classification System, or NAICS, to classify businesses based on profitability using IRS data. The state released the updated data in 2025, and the city is now required to adopt the revised business license class schedule. So tonight, I'll go into it a little bit further, but we are requesting approval of amending our ordinance Appendix B to incorporate these mandated changes, and a copy of the amended ordinance was included in your packet. So the classes are 1 through 7 that are based on the NAICS system, with the Class 1 being your lowest rate, and then your Class 7 being your highest rate. Sorry. So several businesses didn't have any changes to their current business license class schedule at all, such as fast food restaurants, retail, arts, and entertainment. Only one category is actually increasing in its rate class from a 1 to a 2, and that would be your transportation and warehousing, which is towing services, travel agencies, and delivery services like DoorDash. There were several classes that had a decrease. These include real estate and rental services, decreasing from a Class 7 to a Class 6, professional, scientific, and technical services, which are attorneys, CPAs, engineers, decreasing from a rate Class 5 to a 4, healthcare and social assistance, which are doctors, home health, decreasing from a rate Class 4 to a rate Class 3, and other services, personal care, funeral homes, linen services, those kind of things, decreasing from a rate Class 4 to a rate Class 3. So regularly updating the class schedule every 2 years helps prevent large fluctuations in overall business license revenue. Based on the 2025 class schedule, the estimated potential financial impact would be a reduction of $119,000 in our annual business license revenue, which was considered when we were doing our budget for our current fiscal year. So staff is not recommending any increase to the business license fees. And with that, we are requesting approval on first reading of the amended Appendix B of the ordinance.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Ms. Stewart?
Margo, you mentioned there are 7 rate classes, but I guess Class 8 would be considered what?
Class 8 is mandated by the state, and that is where the contractors are, Lisa, contractors. And then we also have a Class 9, which is what they would call them drinking places, bars. nursing homes and car dealerships.
And Mr. Stewart, currently it just happens to be on your computer screen as well. If you refer to that, it shows you the Class 8 and
Right.
the different things that fall under Class 8.
So there's 9 rate classes and not 7?
The 7 or, correct, you want to go ahead?
Correct, but classes 1 through 7 are the ones that we are mandated to change. Class 8 is mandated by the state. We can't change any of those in that class. And then class 9 are what the city, when they originally adopted the business license, considered discretionary, and those were the bars, car dealerships, and nursing homes.
All right, thank you.
And I think also probably one of the goals of the municipal association was to get some uniformity from city to city, county to county, because you have so many different operations that operate in separate locations.
Correct.
Yes, sir. It created an online portal. So if you were a business and you were in 4 different cities, which is often the case in areas where, say you're in Charleston and all the municipalities touch each other, or in Greenville County, they all touch each other. You're doing operations. And what you were having to do before is look at each city's rate classification, which was completely different, and do the accounting for that. And go to each city and visit them to actually pay it. In this case now, there's an online portal. You have the same classifications. They can fill it all out all at once and submit it to all 4 cities that they would be doing business in, as an example.
Good. Mayor Pro Tem?
Aren't there some exemptions to business license requirements? Banking, for example, isn't that an exemption?
Yes, you want to spend on that?
Are there others as well?
The municipal association does collect the insurance, broker fees, so it doesn't come through us, it comes through them. You need to come help me.
Telecommunications?
Lisa Holden, our actual
Yeah,
business
telecommu-
license manager.
Yeah, sorry. So this is the retail side, but when it comes
Yes.
to, because of state law and what's been granted to us by having franchise fees and authorizing utilities to operate within public right-of-way within the city, they're actually licensed. And so they have a franchise fee with us. So your Duke Energies, your AT&Ts, your Spectrum, Charter, and Charter Communications, so forth, pay through that. And so, but that's also a business license. And then your insurance brokers and so forth, they are actually captured. The municipal association has a collection program on that, and they collect through that. So overall, everything makes up 39% of our budget. This is 13% of our budget.
Yeah, yes, I should have clarified, it was retail business license.
But again, this is the retail side of the
Yes, sir.
business license.
Yeah, the retail side. And the other ones are standardized too. I mean, so a franchise fee, you can only go up to 5%. Pretty much everybody's at 5%. We're at 5% across the board for our utilities. And so that's just a straight quarterly. We receive that from the utilities, and it's pretty standard.
Ms. Harvey? No.
I was going to answer the question about banking. Banking is not, we are not allowed to do a business license on them. It is through the state.
Good. Ms. Harvey?
Real quick, so I noticed on the summary sheet, it talked about the percent of revenue and changing these rate classes with our anticipated, is that gonna be, talk about how we can increase the millage rate and different things? Well, is that gonna be revenue neutral, changing the business classes, or do we have an estimate?
We do have an estimate of a potential financial impact of a loss of $119,000, but we took that into consideration in doing the budget for this
Okay.
year. And so we budgeted a potential loss in doing our current year budget.
And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this.
Have a first by Mr. Harvey,
Second.
second by Mr. Steele. Any further discussion?
This is 2 readings, right?
Yes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimous on the first reading. Our third item is request consideration of approval of the Electric City Transit Agency Safety Plan update. Ms. McEwen?
The Electric City Transit, our transit system, runs 6 routes countywide, Monday through Friday, 6:30 to 6:30. Connects to all municipalities in the county, and then transfers also to the CAT system in Pendleton. And so it's a system that is needed and moves a lot of people around, gets people to their workplaces and the errands that they need to take place. We're seeing increased ridership, and we have a ongoing modernization plan of our transit fleet. Recently, if you can remember, we ordered some new buses, if you will, but they're going to look like trolleys coming in, and that we have a lead time on that, but in production, and so we look forward to receiving those. But that's just as an intro again to our Electric City Transit. So we are heavily regulated. Is funded partly from the FTA, Federal Transit Administration, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Keith Moody, our transportation manager.
Thank you, Mr. McEwen. Mayor, City Council, just to give a little bit of background on the agency safety plan. Back in 2020, the Federal Transit Administration, FTA, mandated that all transit agencies come up with a safety plan. Through the years, you would make your changes as federal guidelines would increase. And now they've stepped it to another program to where annually we have to bring it before our governing body. So we've just had our triennial, which is a 3-year audit from the federal government. Our last one was in 22. They've already reviewed this agency safety plan, but they wanted us to make sure that we got it before our governing body.
Thank you, sir. And the information was in the packet, several pages long. Are there any questions, any comments to the material that was in the packet?
I just appreciate the hard work you and your team put into it. With that, I'll make the motion to approve.
First by Mr. Newton, second by Mr. Martinez. I'd entertain any further discussion, comments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Our fourth item of new business is request consideration of a contract for Main Street Sewer Line Rehabilitation Project. Ms. McEwen?
Okay, you can visually see this project taking place on Main Street. Several different aspects to it to ultimately have a new paved Main Street and new crosswalks. With this, before, of course, you put a nice new surface on Main Street, we'd like to rehabilitate any infrastructure that is under the ground, which Main Street is a huge conduit for a lot of infrastructure. Through the years, there's been investment from our other utility partners, from fiber optics to Duke Energy replacing lines that are underground, and they have vaults as well that hold different transmission services there as well. But we have a water line that's currently being replaced that you guys previously approved. It's well on its way, has water flowing into it, and the taps are taking place now, and that's what you'll see them coming through and starting to connect the taps to the new line and convert it over. We've done a full assessment of the current condition of the sewer line, and the sewer line is in need of replacement as well. Mr. Scott Banks, our utility director, will go over the recommendation for that, the scope of the project, and the vendor that's recommended. Mr. Banks.
Thank you, Mr. McEwen. As the city manager alluded to, we've done an assessment of that sewer line. It's mostly clay. There are also a lot of taps that are no longer in service that need to be closed up or eliminated, so that we eliminate groundwater getting in. And the planned project scope is to make some point repairs as needed, and then to line the pipe with a fabric liner that will make the pipe whole. The Houston-Galveston Area Council Cooperative Purchasing Contract, which the city is a member, We're recommending using that for this procurement. The pricing for the particular line items has been negotiated and vetted by the contracting agency. And by doing it this way, we can speed the process along and get it completed in a timely manner. The quote based on the contract pricing is $716,047.64. We've completed multiple projects with Vortex Services, and we've been pleased with their work so far. This meets our strategic goal by assuring sustainable growth by pursuing long-term infrastructure projects and maintaining sewer infrastructure. We have the funds in the sewer budget, utility budget for the project, and staff is recommending approval of a contract with Vortex Services in the amount of $716,047.64. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions? Ms. Stewart, then Dr. Thompson.
Could you explain to me, like, our relationship with the Houston-Galveston area? To me, it sounds, I guess it's Texas, Galveston, Texas, the Houston area, and it would seem like their pricing under their contracts or whatever may be more expensive than what it would be in this local area. And is this the biggest bang for the buck, or, just kind of help me understand that?
Yes, it originated with Houston, but it's a national contract, and they have pricing, multiple vendors, the pricing is vetted, and so it's a maximum price, and then we can negotiate down based on locale and other services to make it in line with what would be in our area, so to speak.
Have we compared, what did we have budgeted for it? How did it fall in line with what, or did we even have a budget that's unforeseen, or what?
Yeah, our budget was $750,000, so we're at $716 here. These companies do this work, move around the country, and there's not that many of them. And so we are a member of this cooperative agreement, and our procurement, of course, we're members of, it allows us to be members of several, including other state contracts as well. And so this was a method to get linear feet to do it. We do expect it to be less than this, actually, for adjustment for pricing, which they acknowledge. So.
I just want to make sure, our pricing was competitive in this market versus, a market, in the southwest.
Yes, and that's what we did due diligence to make sure that was the case.
Thank you.
Dr. Thompson.
Just want to ask about the water quality. Has this improved?
So this is actually for the sewer line, and so, but the water line itself, the quality was always great downtown as far as Main Street. It was just the need to go ahead and upgrade the water line for the far future before we repave, and then you want that infrastructure to last a long time. Get 20 years out of the paving, you hope. And so the water line needed replacement from that standpoint. So it would you could expand the lifespan to another 50 years plus. So we hope that with a new product these days, it's more than that. So.
Ms. Newton.
I've had the pleasure of, I'm downtown pretty much every day watching work. There's a lot going on each and every day, cutting and grinding. I saw Ken out there last week, Whitner in Maine at the courthouse, patching stuff. That's a huge project. And I've told people, because people obviously ask about the roads and stuff, and I'm very honest with them. Like, it's going to get a little bit worse for you, it's better, but there's nothing like worse than if we were to pave Main Street and then have to come back in the future and, cut it up for water lines or sewer lines. This is just, this again, Mayor references a lot with growing pains and stuff. This is a huge project, and I think the final result that the city of Anderson is going to have, and we have a nice newly paved Main Street with also very good functional water lines and sewer lines underneath it. That's going to be huge for, downtown and the city. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
First by Mr. Newton, second by Dr. Thompson. Mr. Harvey?
So how does this going to fit in with the workflow that we have now, and how do they actually line 5,540 linear feet of pipe with cloth resin to keep it?
They pull it in from one manhole to the next. It's an inverted fabric, and then they we'll expand it with hot water, and that hot water will cause that resin to harden, and it'll be a smooth, seamless pipe.
So it's no, and so how are we gonna plug how long is that gonna take?
Usually they'll line from one manhole to the next, and they'll bypass pump long enough for that to cure out. The curing is probably 2 or 3 hour process. Sometimes it's affected by temperature, but everything, they'll come in, they'll line whatever segments they're going to line, and by the end of the workday, it'll be back open and flowing.
It is. Any other questions, comments? Had a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. The last item of new business is request consideration of an engineering contract for the digested lid placement at the Rocky River Water Treatment Plant and upgrade of the supervisor control and data acquisition system of the Rocky River and the Genesee Creek wastewater treatment plants. Ms. McEwen.
Okay, a couple of different things in combination in this project. You've seen this and heard this project before. Is in our CIP. Initially, you've heard of an engineering contract that we did, and also a contract that we did as well regarding the digester lid. So this lid itself, instead of floating straight up, it twists and goes up, and it was causing mechanical failure. And so to further assess that, we had to actually remove the lid. We did engineering. Then we hired a contractor, we removed the lid, because we're not going to use that form of technology anymore as far as the mechanical twisting. And then we had to do a structural analysis also of the entire lid system. And so we knew we were going to have to replace that part of it. So this is continuing actually the design part for that entire system to be replaced. And then secondary to that is the SCADA system. So the supervisory and control data system that actually you can view, monitor the flow, monitor the conditions of the plant from a control center, and actually we can add controls and build onto that and automation features to that, so it replaces the SCADA system. We are expecting we've been approved for state revolving loan fund. We recently did that on another project. It was a water line project. Again, those are subsidized interest rates, and so we're planning on that in 2026, a borrowing on it. This is a part of the process to continue the SRF, which is State Revolving Loan Fund. You had to have the design done and submitted to them, and then the department, we used to say DHEC, now it's the Department of Environmental Services, reviews your design, has to approve your design, and then they have to stamp off on it to approve you to actually borrow. And so that's how that process works. So, Mr. Banks, if you would go through the actual PER, the amount, and then the recommendation to using Ardura.
Thank you. As was stated earlier, W.K. Dixon, who is now Ardura Engineers, in September 25th of 2023 meeting, was approved for that PER. Excuse me. And as part of that PER, there was a price, potential cost that was evaluated. That cost was $2,190,000. Of that, the engineering was included in that. And so the engineering contract coming before you tonight is for the design, bidding, construction administration, and construction observation for the scope of work needed to replace the digester lid and coordinate the upgrade of the SCADA systems at both plants. The cost for the engineering proposal is $254,000, which, as I stated earlier, was included in that original $2.19 million construction estimate. This assures sustainable growth by pursuing long-term infrastructure projects and maintaining sewer infrastructure and regulatory compliance. Funding is with the sewer budget through the SRF loan. Staff is recommending contracting with Ardura Engineers for the design, bidding, construction administration, and construction observation of the digester lid replacement at the Rocky River wastewater treatment plant, and coordination of the SCADA system upgrades for both plants at $254,000.
Thank you. Through our capital projects funding, we invest a lot in water and sewer, for sure, and necessary things for a growing city. But any comments, questions?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we approve this contract.
Second that.
First by Mr. Stewart, second by Dr. Thompson. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Having no further business, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
First by Mr. Steele,
So moved.
second by Dr. Thompson.